Chicago, 1969. Decades of corruption have earned the city a reputation as a place where powerful men act with impunity. So when allegations emerge of impropriety on the state Supreme Court, a cynical public expects business as usual.
This is a whitewash commission, and they want to exonerate those judges.
But the scandal of '69 would take a surprising turn
If you're gonna shoot at the king, don't miss.
and leave a lasting legacy.
Pretty soon, John Paul Stevens was nationally known as a corruption fighter. So that made him. There's no denying that.
I don't know of another instance in which you can identify a particular case that becomes the catalyst for this person becoming a U.S. Supreme Court judge. That's what happened with John Stevens.
The case that launched John Paul Stevens on the path to the Supreme Court started with an unlikely source, a local gadfly named Sherman Skolnick. Skolnick ran a shoestring operation called the Citizens Committee to Clean Up the Courts, peddling juicy conspiracies to eager Chicago journalists.
We know how it happens, we know where it happens, we know when it happens.
He was, considered sort of an odd duck and a Don Quixote type, tilting windmills.
There is a ghost in the bank. We think we know who that ghost is.
Sherman was paraplegic from the time he was 5 or 6 years old. He had a lot of guts. He would go to the courthouse, dig up information, and then he'd try to pass it out to reporters.
One of the reporters for the Daily News said, even a stopped clock is right twice a day. You never know when somebody's gonna hit pay dirt.
In the spring of 1969, Skolnick began shopping around a story about what he claimed were shady dealings at a Chicago bank. Ed Pound was a 25-year-old investigative reporter for the Alton Telegraph, a small-town paper in southern Illinois.
He handed out a pack of documents, and within was one sheet of paper outlining stockholders in the Civic Center Bank and Trust Company of Chicago, which frankly I had never heard of.
Among the stockholders were two powerful members of the Illinois Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roy Solfesberg and former Chief Justice Ray Klingbeil.
It just jumped right out at me. I thought, God, this is a good one.
Pound began digging into the connection between the bank and the justices. He discovered that 3 years earlier, in 1966, both Solfesberg and Klingbeil had received thousands of dollars worth of preferred stock in the bank, which was overseen by a well-known political operator named Theodore Isaacs. At the time, Isaacs was a defendant in a criminal case before the court, a case the justices would later vote to dismiss.
You had a situation where two judges, Klingbeil and Roy Solfesberg, got stock in this bank at a time they're ruling on a guy's life. I know a conflict of interest when I see one, and then I saw one. We did our story, and all hell broke loose.
Under fire from the press and Sherman Skolnick, the 7 justices of the Illinois Supreme Court reluctantly agreed to appoint a special commission to investigate the allegations. The commission's charge, to determine if the justices had acted unethically, in a way that tainted the decision in the Isaacs case and cast doubt on the integrity of the court itself. Named to oversee the 5-man commission was the president of the Chicago Bar Association, Frank Greenberg.
A member of this bar has a responsibility to respond to this kind of request and to do it fearlessly and impartially.
The Greenberg Commission's first task was to find a lawyer willing to put his own career in jeopardy to investigate the state's 2 most powerful judges.
It was a suicide mission for lawyers. There were various lawyers asked to participate in the investigation one way or another and sidestepped it.
The commission settled on a local antitrust attorney with a reputation for integrity and a penchant for bow ties, John Paul Stevens.
I got a telephone call asking me whether I'd be willing to accept the position. It was the kind of request that a lawyer had a professional obligation to try and help out.
This is what brought him into the public eye, and I think he may have been the only person who could have done this.